Hey, everybody. So excited that we can meet tonight. Hopefully, we're getting close to doing in-person meetings so we don't have to do this over the internet anymore. But anyways, we got a special night tonight. We're just so excited. We actually are involved and we're kind of helping out a group that is doing a very special project. And tonight we have the person who is really kind of instrumental in getting this thing started and presenting the storytellers and showing off and elevating their profile, which is so important. We've always in the group have tried to give a voice to the voiceless and to allow those who are seen as less than or marginalized, give them a voice and show the importance of who they are and how they were designed and how we love them and elevate them. And so Miss Shannon Turner, I actually met Shannon. She was involved with a project called 6,000 Waiting, which talked about the comp waiver and people in Georgia that are waiting to get on the comp waiver. And she called me up a little bit later and said that, we're doing this project that we'd love for you guys to help out with. So I'm going to bring Miss Shannon in here. Hello, Miss Shannon.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So Miss Shannon has a company called Story Muse. And give me just a little bit of background of kind of what inspired you and what you do as far as telling people's story and giving them a voice and, those that we don't normally hear about, you help to elevate their profile.
Yeah. So, as a storyteller, I like to say that you could start or end a story anywhere. So I could go as far back as my childhood and talk about my early days and the inspirations that I had. But really, Story Muse started a few years ago. Like many people talk about how our world is just becoming more and more fractured politically and how it's becoming harder and harder for us to hear each other across lines of difference. And I just one day kind of felt a wake-up call. I felt like storytelling had always been there in the background for me. And it was the one thing that I could do to help people hear each other. And so I left my job with $4,000 in the bank and 6 weeks notice, and I've never looked back.
Awesome.
And so it's been 4.5 years now, and I've gone all over, and I help people tell their stories for personal and professional, community and organizational development. And I've worked with girls who've been sex trafficked. I've worked with people who've been unhoused. I've worked with lots of academics and real estate agents in between, and it's really quite extraordinary. I say I've never looked back. Sometimes the times are pretty lean because we don't tend to support artists the way that we support real estate agents and academics, but
right.
It's still it's a labor of love, and it's really quite extraordinary to be able to do this kind of work.
That's awesome. So give me an idea. We have a thing called Night of Champions that we do in Savannah here, and we bring out employers and employees. And we've always said that the thing that is the secret sauce is when an employee gets up and he tells his story.
Yes.
And how he's been impacted by a job and the friendships that he developed. And then the employer gets up and talks about, well, this person has just made a change in our work environment, and people see not only this individual different, but people that work there differently. So it really, stories matter.
Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes is that the shortest distance between two human hearts is a story. And I feel like that's one of the, it's unfortunate that one of the things that happens in our world is that our stories are stolen away from us, capitalized, and sold back piece by piece. And a lot of people will be really quick to say, well, people tend to say like, oh, I'm not a good storyteller, but they'll be really also quick to sit down and watch a story from their own culture sold back to them through Netflix or Disney Plus or any kind of thing. Right. And this used to be like our oldest form of communication. Like everyone would sit down at the end of the day around the campfire and swap stories from their day or from their family. Like it was was how we conveyed our values and lots of deep knowledge. And so it didn't used to be that anybody would be allowed to say, like, I can't tell a good story. It's something that's been educated out of us, as so many things have happened in our education system, that we've been made to believe that we do not have the capacity to do something that is innate in us. So I'm just kind of going around helping people reconnect with this thing that is a part of who we are, and to understand that their stories have great value.
Excellent. Yeah, I've been to Africa on mission trips, and you hear things about history that, how did that occur? And it's just been generation after generation that has kept the truth of whatever that story was. And here it is, 10 generations later,
Right.
and you get that story, and it's through storytelling, it's passing on that truth. And talk a little bit about, I know that you did some work at Virginia Tech after the tragedy there. And so the value of people having the ability to speak to either trauma in their lives or when they were marginalized, and tell me the value of that story.
So I was at Virginia Tech when the shooting occurred. I was finishing up my MFA, and I actually lived there for about 10 years total. I think I was sort of uniquely positioned to lead an initiative that popped up after the shootings that was geared toward community dialogue and artistic response. And then, so I stayed on for a whole year doing that work, and was transitioning to Atlanta, where I live now. And then in 2016, the folks that I'd worked with came to me and said, we're starting to think about what's going to happen next year for the 10-year anniversary. And that was right about that time when those things were bubbling up that I was telling you about, that would move toward me becoming a professional storyteller, came about. Right. And so they said, we'd like to invite you to come back and do a residency around storytelling for reflection and resilience. And that was one of those parts of my origin story that sort of like encouraged me to make this big leap. So we cultivated that residency, and I went back to Virginia Tech several times, and we did another big show that was at this historic downtown theater. It was incredible because we were able to cultivate a show that was in the community rather than on campus, because I think a lot of activity was focused on campus, and folks tend to think that when a university is located in a town, that it happens to the whole community and not just to the students and the faculty.
Which is Blacksburg.
Exactly.
Virginia.
Yeah. And so we did have like one of the students who'd had to jump out of window to stay alive, and one of the young women who had lost her mom that day. But we also had a person who'd moved to Blacksburg in the 6 months after the shooting happened, and talked about what it was like to become a new community member in the wake of that event. Right. And we had a young man who'd grown up queer in that community and talked about what it was like, to be in that circumstance, and to feel that alienation. So we had a real wide range of experience, and it was so amazing for me, because then I came back, and somebody was asking me like what I had done at Virginia Tech, and out of the blue, she just, and I'd known this woman for years, started telling me about how she had been pistol whipped in her front yard in Atlanta.
Oh,
and I had never thought about my responsibility for helping stories about everyday trauma and violence come to life in my own community. And so I went out and I got a grant, and that led to my first major Story Muse production, independent of the Virginia Tech stuff. And so that show was called Trigger Warning, and it was just about 9 storytellers telling their own stories about everyday grief and trauma. And everything, it's just an amazing journey of one thing leading to another with this work.
So tell me then, so obviously the reason for it is that people have a voice, but tell me a little bit about the reaction, and even the project that you're involved with, that you spoke to us about, and that we're kind of getting involved with. It, the idea is to do this for a reaction, in the sense that we're trying to elevate a platform So the community, so individuals in power, so those that are disenfranchised. It's a voice around this project in elevating those needs and those
Mhm.
voices.
Yeah, I like to think of it as my job is to hold a microphone up to a voice that already exists.
Hmm.
And to, everybody has a story, and sometimes it's about like helping their story, have a bigger platform. And sometimes I think we tend to talk about stories as being marginalized, but really it's like they're only marginalized because we think of ourselves as the center. But
Right.
maybe we just need to like move our sense of what the center is.
Right.
So this storytelling project, the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities, launched in 2018. And the first iteration of it was a writing and photography project. And I was very fortunate to be a part of that first iteration. And so I got to travel the state with photographers and collect between 75 and 100 stories of people all over the state. And the
So how was
purpose
that?
of that.
How was that done? I mean, how did you find 75 to 100 people to speak with?
So we have this wonderful admin team, Resurgence Impact Consulting, and they do like just gorgeous like grant writing and admin work for nonprofits all over. And they won the grant and then hired me as their subcontractor. Wow. And they had like amazing, like super solid spreadsheets and an outreach plan. And they were talking to, and GCDD sort of provided some support as well in that way. I had a few contacts in different parts of the state, and we just sort of went at it. And they wanted one or two stories from every single legislative district. And the reason for that was because they wanted to be able to go back, to have their lobbyists be able to walk right into every legislator's office and say, this is your constituent.
Absolutely.
Like, please make better decisions on this person's behalf, because this is what a Medicaid waiver does, or this is what happens when a person does not have a Medicaid waiver.
Right.
And so we did that for a whole year, and they came back to me at the end of the year and said, we'd like to do another version of the writing project. And after I had done that for a whole year, I was seeing all of these trends that I was tracking across all these stories. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm happy to keep writing for you, but I really see a podcast in these stories. I see these things that are going across the stories that I feel like would be really effective if we could show them as, more parts of a whole. Like the school to couch pipeline is really important story to tell together. Employment first.
Explain that school to couch pipeline.
So there's this, unfortunate trend that happens where if a person's family has not thought proactively about what happens after they graduate from high school,
right?
If they don't have their Medicaid waiver lined up, if they, don't have whatever in place, then there's the potential that they could possibly just go home and sit.
And you saw really this lost. Over and over and over again.
I saw that either it was happening, it could happen, or people were super afraid of it happening and they didn't know how to stop it from happening.
Right.
So in the same way that people talk about the school to prison pipeline, for other folks, the school to couch pipeline is just this thing. It's out there. We need to talk about it. Then there's the employment first, and how the Medicaid waiver is supporting job coaches and like helping people think more creatively about what their work could look like. There's also amazing independent living opportunities that people have now.
And that's, for our population, that's so exciting because
I know.
Yeah, because I have a child in high school, and we have kids that are at that point of transition, or kind of we're thinking about that transition. And, it kind of worries you because, it worries me that my twins are out on their own, but the thought of my daughter being out on her own, or, our kids being independent, there's hesitancy there. Yeah. And, again, the idea of telling the story and saying, look what they did, that is so important.
And I'm going to go ahead and drop this into the chat, because there's lots of folks, that we talk about who have like pooled their Medicaid waivers and like made their own group home together with people they went to high school with, or just lots of really interesting models for that.
Yeah.
So I had actually done a radio show for WRAK here in Atlanta, the Georgia Tech station. And so between my experience with having worked with the Storytelling Project and my radio experience, I was able to say, let's make a podcast together, and they bought it. Wow. So we did both the writing project and the podcast the second year. And then I took a year off with the Storytelling Project. And during that year, I made a show with people who were unhoused, young adults, in the heart of the pandemic, when it was, everything was crazy. We didn't know how to work, but I still managed to pull this thing off. But the GCDD was still following me. And so they called me up after that show was over, and they were like, that looked amazing. Like, can we do that too?
Well, kind of explain that. So they're young adults that run house. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So this amazing nonprofit here in Atlanta, it's actually 5 minutes from my house. They work in a lot of different capacities. They do adoption services. They do mental health services in the schools. And they have both a transitional housing service for people who've been in foster care and then age out of foster care, but they're not ready to fly on their own. And then they have a drop-in center for youth and young adults who are unhoused. And I had gotten a grant to work with them in the before time. Wow. With an Arts and Social Justice Network organization that I'm a part of. And that program was supposed to happen in the very traditional way that I had been working before, over the course of 7 weeks inside with a culminating show in a theater. And then we were like, what are we going to do now? So Roots was very flexible about it. Chris 180 was very flexible about it. But in talking with them, they were like, certainly we could do any of the number of things that Roots has said. You can wait until 2021. You can pivot to an online platform. But the further I talked to them about it, making that program online was not going to be an equitable experience for that population. It's just not the same thing. Right. And there's this heart space with storytelling that didn't feel like it was going to translate. And they were not able to be served, like helping them make job applications, even just like taking them to Six Flags, like everything was shut down. And I was like, so let's just make it happen. Let's make this program happen. And so we went out and did a bunch more fundraising and resource gathering. And so we got a bunch of tents, and we that's where the idea of doing it as a drive-in pop-up came about. Yeah. And so we did the whole thing in 1 week, actually. Wow. Outside, so everything was socially distanced. And so that's when, after that show was over and GCDD was watching, they said, can we do a version of that with our population? Because they were stymied for how to serve people with IDD in the pandemic, especially because many folks are considered medically fragile. And so they really wanted to make sure that they were able to do that. And so, not knowing where we would be in the pandemic at this time, because we started on this project late last year, we proposed the whole project would happen under social distancing measures from the filming through the performances. And
thank goodness we're starting to see us get out of that now.
I know.
It gives us a lot more freedom. Yeah.
Yes. But at one time it was supposed to be all drive-ins. And one thing that's been nice is that gradually all 6 cities have transitioned to picnic style. So at least while we're still outside, we can be a little bit more together.
In distance, yeah.
But still distance. And that is really important, because I got to tell you, John, I think a lot of people are still trying to feel this thing out.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think, so when we were in Dahlonega just last week for our site visit, they were having this amazing paint to the music event with people who are neurodivergent. And some of those folks, it was the very first time they had been out.
Wow.
And so I think we do really still have to respect that having a community event with different people who, might be on the spectrum or just like have different medical needs, we have to make sure that we are maintaining our distance as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So that gets us to kind of where we met.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you first contacted me last fall, and I did a little. I previewed the 6,000 Waiting,
Yes.
which was an awesome film, and really told the story about how this benefited people that had different abilities, and how it's such a a tragedy that there's so many people out there that
Yeah.
can't get this funding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you contacted me in the spring, and then we talked about this event. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so give a
Go
little
ahead.
background on the whole, what it's going to look like for the month of, because we have people
Yeah.
that listen to this in Atlanta and
Hmm.
other parts of Georgia as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So give a little background on it.
Great. So I do want to be clear. 6,000 Waiting is a different documentary film that GCDD made last year, and
Right.
it is very powerful. And I highly recommend it. You can propose to have independent screenings in your community. You can't have public screenings yet because they're entering it into film festivals. And in fact,
Oh.
it just got selected for an amazing, huge film festival in Colorado, and it might have even won a prize, actually. I can't remember. I got to check my details on that. But
Yeah.
we're really proud of that film. And so when I was contacting you, we were wanting different people with relationships to the disability field to pre-screen it and offer feedback before its final edits.
Yeah.
And so and so it did have a few tweaks, by the way, John, after parents and different folks with disabilities watched it. So it's now out there, and we love that film. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Treasure Maps, however, is this exciting new venture where we've gone out across the state and we've helped 10 different storytellers with different abilities and who live all over the state in different races and, lots of different, kinds of storytellers tell short stories. So they're each like a short film. And the thing that's really fun about the way that this has turned out is that the stories, like the filmmaking style, is kind of responsive to the story itself and the storyteller.
Right.
So because my sort of like stock and trade is helping people like stand up on a stage and tell their story, kind of like the moth on NPR.
You're right.
But not everybody, especially folks who have different abilities in terms of intellectual disability, can tell a story like that. And so we found that we had to get kind of creative in helping people tell their story. So there's one guy who has Down syndrome, who is Indian and loves to cook. And so his story is an Indian cooking show.
Wow.
Where I'm like the guest on his show.
Yeah.
And he's like really into Guy Fieri and like those kinds of like what's that HGTV kind of shows?
Yeah. Food Network. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So his story is going to be just like that. And then there's one young woman who she has an Etsy store and she sells earrings. And so her story is going to be just like watching a QVC commercial for like how to make her Etsy, earrings.
Yeah.
And then,
and give us. So a lot of people don't know this, but there will be a special guest that many of the people on this that are watching this know about. So you can reveal that now.
Right, Michael Holton, there in Savannah, local star. He's in the show, and so his is kind of going to be like watching CBS Sunday Morning, like a very heartwarming reunion story with him and his friend Katie. So they're going back to their elementary school where they first met. They're going to be interviewing each other, and they're kind of doing it like this is your lifestyle. And it's a really fun story. They're actually on the playground, but they're right outside the doors of the kindergarten room where they met. And they're just going to tell really awesome stories about each other. It's like a great story of full inclusion, really, about how living a full inclusion life is so transformative. And of course, Michael tells a story about becoming the homecoming king.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. And I think isn't Michael also y'all's
he's the vice president.
No, isn't he also the show marshal? No, you have a different.
No, yeah, there's somebody else.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, going to be our
Imelda, right. So one of the features of each show is that we have a person with a different ability and a local celebrity who are helping me to co-host the show. So there'll be live interactive moments, not just the film on the screen.
Yeah.
We're really excited about that.
So who should be, I mean, just the thought of these stories, it's exciting to, like I
right.
want to preview it already, but
Mhm.
we got to wait till the night. But so who can come to this, and who should be there to see this?
Oh my gosh, anybody and everybody. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I think a lot of folks are sort of still, I think of it, it's kind of like that moment in The Wizard of Oz after the storm when folks are just like,
Right.
So I think that this could be
come out.
the first time that a lot of folks, anybody and everybody, are coming out to enjoy being together with the community.
Yeah.
And so we're really trying to make this like a celebratory. I am making a killer playlist. There's going to be food trucks in most locations. Some locations are actually having bands and art vendors. So, this is not something that is just of the disability community. It is for everybody to come out and enjoy outdoor theater.
And if somebody wants to come, how much does it cost for them? I mean, they can get tickets, right?
They can get tickets, and the cost is absolutely $0.
Which is the best. It is
going to be absolutely the best. Now, the food trucks, if you want to get some chow,
right.
You got to support your local food community. Yeah. But the show
at our
itself
site,
is free.
we're giving away some food. So
nice.
Yeah, so, I don't know if it'll be a full 6-course meal, but we're going to offer some food for people as well.
Wow. Well, there you go. That made it worth. I mean, I think everybody in the state should just drive to Savannah to see this show.
Exactly. So if people want to talk about that. If they want to come to this event, how would they do that?
So there is an Eventbrite ticket, and then it's free, and we're going to drop that link right in here to the chat for you. Okay. I think you have a partner in rhyme on that.
Yeah, my bride always by my side working the chat room. So
you're ride or die.
Put that in there. Yeah,
I love it. I wish I had a ride or die. So I think that certainly we can take some walk-up registrations, but it would be super helpful if folks do let us know that beforehand that they're coming. And we're really excited to be coming to the venue that we have for Savannah. So this is the old Roberts Dairy Farm, which is kind of an up and coming event venue. Yeah, it's a former, huge, beautiful. Apparently they had a derby party the other night, and they have the Pegasus Riding Academy, which we're excited to be able to talk about that and how important that is in the lives of people with disabilities.
Many of our members do therapy riding there as well.
Yeah, so the Pegasus Riding Academy shares space with the dairy farm, and we're going to be in the corral. So, and one of the fun things about this project is how the different places have such different venues. So. In Macon, we're going to be at the Opera House in their parking lot. And in Athens, we're going to be at a brewery because it's Athens.
It's Athens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in Dahlonega, we're going to be in this beautiful park that's just right downtown. So yeah, every place is going to be super different.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, it's going to be an awesome event. Mm-hmm. And what a great way for the community. And especially I think that if there are people that people in the audience, they know that could be influenced or they make decisions. It's good for them to come to this event as well. Because again, the secret sauce is you hear people telling their stories. Yeah. And the idea of this is that through their stories, we're elevating that platform and we're saying, the state can help out these individuals with comp waivers and giving them freedom, flexibility, independence, which are, it's so important for people in our community post high school, post education.
Yeah.
But, that's not the only reason to do this. But I always think that, if you know somebody and, he could be, a local official or somebody that has influence or, somebody in the community that would love to hear this. It would be great to have them come out and see this and observe this and have a good time. And, it's going to be a great event.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of people who, and like I said, my whole labor of love is about helping people hear each other across lines of difference. But this is one of the best things that we can be investing our tax dollars in. And even if you believe that people should be like living independently and not having to rely on other people, like a little bit of dollars and a Medicaid waiver goes a really long way in helping people not to have to rely on anybody else.
It
So,
transforms neighborhoods. It
yes.
transforms communities. It just is, it's a win-win situation
Yes.
everywhere.
Yes.
So, you know what? I think I don't even think that we even talked about when this is. So I have a little
Oh,
thing that
yeah.
I'll put up.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So it's officially the Treasure Maps, the Georgia Storytelling Roadshow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Savannah show. So I didn't put up the rest of the times and locations for everywhere else, but this is for Savannah. So it's Friday, June 25th. Gates open at 7:30. Show starts at 9 o'clock. And again, it's Old Robert's Dairy Farm. And what we'll do is we'll put a link in the chat. So, whatever people are interested, they can go to that link, go to get the tickets as well. That there'll be a map there to get to the location as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And we'll continue to, like, as folks register on the Eventbrite and especially on the Facebook event, post announcements as we have things come into place. Like we'll probably do like special shout outs to folks like Imelda and that local celebrity when that person signs on. We'll be excited to drop that news.
Exactly.
And so yes, we'll post special things about, like, make sure you know how you're getting there, and we're not sure about the weather. We got to all do the no rain dance for the next month.
Exactly. Well, if it's like this, if it's like the weather out now, it's hot and dry. So
Right.
which at night it cools down, so it won't be so bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we'll have
So,
lots of shade there. Mm-hmm.
So it has to be after dark, right? So
It does, for quality screen time. And I know that's why some people are like, oh, why are we starting at 9? But
yeah.
We have this wonderful production company, and that is their job in life, is they go all over supporting these pop-up movie theaters. People hire them to come into their backyards to do graduation parties and all kinds of things. And they really say that at this time of the summer, you cannot start before 9 p.m. if you really want to be able to see that screen well. So that's why we're doing it.
So what can people bring? So they should bring like chairs, blankets, wagons.
Yep. Yeah, wagon's pets. A great idea. Oh, pets.
Yeah, I didn't think about.
That's a really good question. I think we should ask about that. Now, Atlanta, you can't have an event anywhere if people can't bring their dogs. It is a dog town, so we will check.
Savannah's that way too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that maybe we might think about that logistically, how they'll do that. But so it's really an outdoor festival event. And there's a great basis by these stories that people are going to be able to see.
Yes.
And be influenced, their emotions brought forth. And, it's a great way to elevate these people's platforms. So you see who they are. And we give value to who they are, which is so important. So we're very excited. And, thank you for what you've done for this. And
thank you.
What's gonna, what this will bring out of this event is very exciting. So we are happy to help out in the small way that we can. But,
well, we couldn't have done it without you guys. Like, Low Country Down Syndrome Society is holding it down. Like, we are so excited to come to Savannah and have this party together with you. It is like, it's such a joy to have such an amazing job, and especially to connect with great folks like y'all.
Yeah. Well, I've found that, when you get mom and dads that are transformed by their child, and, it changes all aspects of your life and your kid's life and siblings and parents and everybody. And they become the most fierce advocates,
right?
For their kids and for others. It changes their heart on how they see others.
Yeah.
And, that's really special and exciting to see. And I know that that's what you try to do. So
absolutely. I mean, you're never the same after you start telling these kind of stories. Actually, you know what? I just saw in my rear view mirror here, that is Julian. He is one of our storytelling project participants, and also
Awesome.
A buddy of mine through Alternate Roots. He's a young
Yeah.
man in the Atlanta area who has autism, and he does amazing artwork. Like, you just never see the world the same after you start talking about ableism and the Medicaid waiver.
Yeah. So good. Well, thank you so much, Miss Shannon. I appreciate your time, and it was good talking to you. Good to hear your story, and
My
we just look
pleasure.
forward. It's really literally about a month away. So
I know, today, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
What great
today.
timing.
So it'll be a Friday night instead of a Tuesday night, but still, it'll be a Friday night. It'll be wonderful weather. We can all gather and celebrate, and champion those that need to be championed. So it's exciting.
Yeah. Well, y'all take care. Let us know if you have any questions. Can't wait to see you in a month.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye.